Good evening, I'm Gaurav Sawant. First up, the story of a rape survivor. She refuses to be called a victim. She is not a victim. She's still fighting for justice. This is a story of a woman who was raped and brutalized. Her story exposes the ugly side of the country's medico legal system and the insensitivity towards rape survivors. The incident dates back to July 2009 when the woman was raped by a youth in his house in a posh South Delhi locality. The man had befriended the girl on a social networking site, Facebook. He invited the survivor to his house on the pretext of introducing her to his parents. The girl says she was assaulted and raped by the youth. He then forcibly pushed her into his car. However, she managed to escape, went to a traffic signal. The traumatized survivor then narrated the entire incident to her sister, who happened to be a lawyer. The girls approached a senior lawyer who contacted the police. The girl's trauma only increased when she was taken to the All India Institute of Medical Sciences for a medical examination. She had to face doctors who, instead of being supportive, were actually hostile towards the survivor. When the case came up for hearing in court, she again underwent further embarrassment and humiliation. Adding insult to injury, there were fingers that were pointed at her character. Finally, the court let off the accused, giving him the benefit of the doubt. But the victim hasn't given up her fight. She is now knocked on the doors of the Delhi High Court for justice. The case yet again brought to light the failure of the Delhi police in nailing the accused in a court of law. The police carried out a rather shoddy investigation of this case, resulting in the accused escaping the long arm of the law. Clearly, our system failed to ensure justice for this rape survivor.
Why does a woman have to prove her virtuousness before she could be seen as a rape victim? Why do our courts allow the defense lawyers to deliberately insult and humiliate a rape victim? Lack of efficient policing and law and order is only one aspect of the problem. What is actually required is the complete overhaul of the criminal justice system. Until that happens, the rapes will go on. This is Ashish Khetan for Headlines Today.
So the Prime Minister today said, I have 3 daughters. I understand your pain. Steps will be taken. The Home Minister said steps are being taken. The Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, he was missing for the past 7 days. When he came back, he's promptly suspended 2 police officers. He's announced some measures. Is this enough? Is a special session of Parliament called for? Is there now a need for stronger laws? Let me now bring in that brave rape survivor. Let me ask her, is she satisfied with the steps taken by the government? If I were to ask you, also joining me on the show is Ashish Khetan, our editor investigations at Headlines Today. But let me come to our brave rape survivor first. Are you satisfied with the measures announced by the government? You've heard the Prime Minister, you've heard the Home Minister. Does that give you confidence to step out on the streets of Delhi now?
Absolutely not. These are, as of now, are the rhetorics. We want the government and the judicial system to put everything in place and prove it. You know, these are certain words which are probably just to suppress the protest which is happening. But we really want to see the law to change so that there is enough deterrent. You know, there should be deterrent effect so that, you know, there is some kind of fear which is there before someone even thinks of committing such grave crime.
Yes. Now, as somebody who unfortunately underwent that trauma, that agony, what would you expect of your Prime Minister? When the Prime Minister speaks, he is the all-powerful Prime Minister of a country like India. If he wants, he can change things, he can make things better. What would you expect of Dr. Manmohan Singh?
Just because a particular case has come up, which was so brutal, that's when it has come to the fore. People have started talking about it. There are n number of cases, rape cases, which are still pending, which are not, there is no conviction as yet. Why now? Why can't they start? They could have started everything long time back, but why is it that in our country that when something grave like this happens, then only we start taking action?
Okay, specific steps if you were to suggest, and since you've seen the police, you've seen hospitals, you've seen the way judiciary is functioned, where would you want changes? How can these changes come?
Well, starting from the police, they need to be more sensitive towards these complainants. Rather than asking them 10 questions, they should file the complaint as soon as possible and do proper investigation, which is the most important part of any case, any rape case. The investigation should be carried out without any lapses. Try and not. That's one thing. Secondly, medical examiners need to be very, very sensitive. They should not treat us like, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm talking about my case where I was treated the moment I entered the hospital. They started calling me out as who is the rape victim. I stopped existing at that point in time in my life. From an educated person, I became a rape victim. And they need to be more sensible towards these victims and conduct proper investigation here also, I would say, because it is one of the most important stage of any investigation in a rape case, that there should be the proper MLC should be made. There should not be any mistakes. That's what I would like to say. And in terms of court proceedings, well, when I was there at the court, I was subjected to such kind of inhuman behavior where the defense lawyer walked in with about 10-15 juniors who started staring at me. They tried to instigate me, and in front of me there was no screen. Since it's a in-camera proceeding, there was no screen. I was made to sit in between so many people. People were walking in and out of the courtroom, and to that extent, the defense lawyer and the accused started exchanging high fives in the court, and I want the system to understand that we are traumatized already by what was subjected to us. At the same time, we need some kind of reassurance,
Yes.
That we are not the ones, we haven't done anything wrong. We were subjected to something which was wrong. The society need to change. Instead of ostracizing us, they should look down upon the accused and not us.
Yes.
And it's a high time that we need to change our mindset, which is true. But the police, the medical examiners, and the court needs to be more sensitive towards us.
Yes, they need to be more sensitive, is what you're saying. Change the system. In whatever the Prime Minister said, in whatever the Home Minister said, Ashish Khaitan, in what the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi said, anywhere do we see that they're even aware of the ground realities? Are they reacting to the situation the way they should?
No, what is the government doing now? The government is just focusing on stopgap arrangements, which is quick fix solutions. What we need is a complete overhaul of the criminal justice system.
Yes.
From the time the victim walks into the police station to register her complaint, when the victim is taken for medical legal examination, when the prosecution presents its case in court, when the investigation is carried out, when the victim is subjected to humiliation by the defense lawyers and the court fails to intervene. These are all the aspects which are part of the criminal justice system which are failing victims. Unless the system in its totality is fixed,
Yes.
by having more statutes, by having more stringent punishment on law books is not going to solve the problem. The rapes will go on. We need a complete overhaul of the system. What is happening in Delhi, or what happened in Delhi a week back, is happening every day, almost every day in small talukas of Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand in Odisha. Those cases don't get publicity. You know, Gaurav, that we have an abysmal level of conviction rate. Only 25 or 30% cases end up in conviction. Others just walk free. Why the government so far has not reviewed such a large number of acquittals? Why the higher judiciary is not reviewing the functioning of the lower judiciary? How the additional session judges, how the lower courts are functioning, how the trial is conducted.
Yes.
If the trial is prejudiced, if the police investigation is prejudiced, by having more statute, we are not going to solve the problem.
Let me bring in senior advocate and BJP leader Meenakshi Lekhi at this stage. Meenakshi, you heard the rape survivor. You also heard the Prime Minister of India. He spoke for the first time after 7 days. He spoke for precisely 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Did he inspire confidence? Is he geared up to bring about the change that India is seeking at this stage?
I think a government which was showing fiscal deficit has resulted in a deficit of the governance and democracy, which is writ large when the people who they are supposed to be led by certain leaders, the leaders become so distant that they forget the pain and apathy which the people of this country and the people who they seem to be representing are suffering, and there is a huge distance between the ones who are supposed to be their servants technically but behave like the almighty rulers and despotic rulers that too. So despotic rulers cannot be the representatives of people in a democracy. Democracy needs to have rulers and people who behave and conduct themselves as part of them and voice their concern. Unfortunately, over the past 7 days, those voices have been missing, and whatever has been said today does not inspire confidence for that very reason. It does not inspire confidence because when children aged between 18 to 20 surround the house of a chief minister and they are unarmed, they are carrying their school bags and water bottles, and they are thrashed, lathi charged by the police. Nothing can be more appalling than that. I think at that point in time, the sensitive way would have been that convert that into a Jan Sunwai. Yes. And sit down there with the children and ask them, what do you want? What do you want to say? How do you think we can improve? Convince them on your point of view or be convinced by their point of view. Unfortunately, none of this has happened, and I remember just day before yesterday, yes. All these days I was with them, and all kids irrespective, and those are people who are not known to me from prior in time or any such thing, just joined them, and they were also, I mean, very decent, very affectionate, very peaceful children. And all of a sudden you see there is a water cannon, and post water cannon there is a tear gas shell. In fact, I've recorded a very short video that people who are just standing there amongst people, and there was no violence. Yeah. There is no brick or stone at Rajghat, at Rashtrapati Bhavan. There is nothing like that. From where these things came yesterday, from where these things came today, and how has police permitted that? And I think there was a very seditious plan. Under a plan, these things were orchestrated to make a peaceful protest into a violent protest so that they can justify a crackdown on these peaceful protesters. And on
an issue as sensitive as this, for more security for women in India, why should the government and the people be seen as if they're on opposite sides? It defies logic. Amanpreet Wahi, you're a model. You're also seeing what's happening in Delhi. Is the government's response what it should be? Are you satisfied with the government's response, or is the government completely out of sync with this generation that's out on the streets?
I think the government's response has been really, I'm appalled by it. There was absolutely no response yesterday. The people were fighting. The people were doing a peaceful protest. I mean, all we wanted was an assurance from the Prime Minister, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, supposedly the youth icon, did not come out. All we wanted was an assurance that please come out and tell us that this will not happen with us again. People were fighting yesterday because they don't want it to happen to their sisters, to their mothers, who actually travel every day on the bus. I mean, they don't have the luxury
their
of their
friends for
VIP
that
car
matter.
and VIP bodyguards following them around. But that did not happen. I also heard someone saying, which is so true, that Mr. Obama would have come out, he would have been sitting with the people, he would have addressed his nation yesterday only. I feel it's after seeing the outcry yesterday, the government realized, oh my God, this has really become a serious issue. Let's do something about it. And what have they come out with? Nothing solid till now. And then the peaceful protesters are being thrown, I mean, the water cannon in this really chill, you're throwing water at women, you're lathi charging women, and then the police wala is telling one woman, maza chakhiye. What is all that? You're completely out of sync with what your people want. What are you doing? I feel it's a complete failure of our political system. Not Congress, not BJP. Our entire political system has failed us.
Let me once again bring in a survivor. What would you expect of the government? Would you want a special session of parliament, as the opposition is saying, let's debate tough laws on rape, let's debate tough laws on acid attackers, because that's again an extremely serious issue which for some reason isn't a part of that public discourse the way it should be. Should acid attackers also be either imprisoned for life or be hanged? Is that an option? As a survivor who's undergone that trauma, what is it that you would want the lawmakers of this country to do? What kind of laws do you want? You're studying law, you are a budding lawyer yourself now.
Well, as I've said earlier, that I don't want to comment on what kind of punishment should be given, but I would only request that there should be a system which should be built up, which will act as a deterrent, so that people are scared. The people are scared to even think of committing such a crime. That's what I would like to say. This could be in terms of proper patrolling. Police should be proactive.
Okay.
In terms of lodging such complaints, doing proper investigation, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, the fear of the law should be there. Meenakshi Lekhi, you're a senior advocate. How will this fear of law come in these potential molesters, potential rapists, potential acid attackers? What needs to be done? 3 steps if you were to suggest.
You see, the first thing is molestation, especially in Delhi, or when the amendments were brought. I think MP, Madhya Pradesh is the only state which deals with cases of parading a woman naked and such things very, very stringently. Except other than that, the laws are pretty lax so far as molestation and outraging the modesty of a woman are dealt with. And I think all this starts from this very thing, molestation and outraging the modesty, which finally these kinds of outrageous people convert it into rape and such crimes. It's a step-by approach. So I think it needs to be terminated right in the bud. The second thing is there has been a complete mess up with the sentencing policy of the country. The sentencing policy in cases was pretty stringent. That was in case a girl has been raped and murdered. In those cases, it was treated as rarest of the rare case and people were given death penalty. In spite of them being given death penalty, the death penalty has somehow not been executed. We have politicized the death penalties also, and because we don't want to execute a particular person, so before that deck needs to be cleared and everyone has got the benefit. And Mrs. Pratibha Patil actually, in similar cases where a 7-year, 8-year-old child was murdered and raped, such kind of criminals whose death penalty has been converted into life imprisonment. And that is the play we are doing with the imprisonment and sentencing laws of the country, whereas I want sentencing laws to be more stringent in the sense, if a life-altering event such as acid victim or acid and rape or hand being severed, leg being severed, somebody being paralytic for rest of the life,
okay,
or or eye being gouged out, any of those cases which are so brutal by its very existence, over and above the rape, I think in all such cases, attempt to murder, also murder, these are the cases which should be treated as rarest of the rare, and death penalty should be given in such cases, because these are such traumatic incidents for which a person, no matter how much sympathy one can show, you can never alter the life of such people. And the
Amanpreet?
only way to deal with
Yeah.
it is the brutal manner.
Would you agree? You need to bring in stringent punishment, speedy trials, so that that acts as a deterrent, and that doesn't seem to be happening in our country.
First of all, I'd like to say that every time there's a rape, they come out with a helpline, which is absolute bullshit. Do you think a rape, a person, a victim going through that has time to call your helpline? Every time you come out with a stupid number, we don't have time to call that number while 6 men are all over us. Please try and understand. So capital punishment, I see that as the only solution right now. You have to create a fear in the mind of the criminal that he cannot do this. Even if he's done it, he cannot get away with it. We sometimes skip wearing seat belts in India because we think we can get away with it.
Yeah.
But as soon as we go to US, oh my God, we cannot mess with the law. Why? Because the laws are so strict, the police is so strict, we respect the police there. I want that respect for our police as well. Why do we all think that we can get away with everything in this country by just paying them off 100 rupees? I mean, I am on for capital punishment if that's the step we have to take. The only thing which I've liked so far, I got a message that the government has come out with a complaint helpline number where you can complain about
Okay.
an auto person who doesn't take you home after 7. That's the only help I think. Okay, the girls are going to feel, okay, this is going to help us. But otherwise, I feel capital punishment is the solution. You have to take these matters seriously. And what is rarest of rare rape? What is that? If this is not rarest of rare, nothing is. That the girl has been raped by 6 people. She's been shoved in by an iron rod.
Yes.
This is rarest of rape. Rare
So the
rape.
government is considering, death penalty in a case like this. The Home Minister has indicated that. But Ashish, you've been studying this subject very closely. Will death penalty be a deterrent, or is speedy trial perhaps more an in-camera trial, which is the law but seldom implemented in toto? Is that the next logical step?
Well, certainly it is debatable. We can debate about it, whether we need more stringent punishment, whether we need capital sentencing, and so on. And Meenakshi is right. There is a huge gap between the outraging of modesty and the sexual assault, which is a rape, and we need some laws to bridge in that gap. But I think we are too much fixated with enacting new statutes and coming up with more stringent punishment for rape, and what we are not dealing with right now. And I'm surprised at why the political parties are not rising above this, tug of war, political tug of war, and there is no inward focus on the system, how the system is functioning. Because law and order, better policing, more statute will only deal with one aspect of the problem. They can only do so much. What about the apathy, the inbuilt apathy, the inhumanity which is embedded in our system? What the policemen will remain the same, the implementing machinery will remain the same, the doctors conducting medical legal will remain the same, the judges who will implement and apply that statute will remain the same. So there has to be a holistic approach.
Yeah.
There has to be a complete overhaul.
And that is where perhaps the Union Home Minister needs to step in, instead of saying, despite it being a Sunday, I met 15 children, and keep that as a key.
And not just the
result
government,
area.
all
all aspects need to come together on that. I've run out of time on this show. Meenakshi Lekhi, Amanpreet Wahi, Ashish Khaitan, and the brave rape survivor who joined us on Headlines today, on Center Stage tonight. Many thanks for joining me.